Hi, hello. I made the mistake of yelling at a sporting event, and I was tricked into going outside. How horrendous. Welcome back to another episode of Passive Pixels. This is going to be a special episode. Look at me, I'm already on a roll. I've explained why my voice sounds weird, and I've already even said the name of the show. And next up, I'm going to also mention what the topic is going to be. I watched the Before trilogy, Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, Before Midnight, and I needed a person. I needed someone who knew Kino, who knew true cinema artistique, right? And I couldn't really find anyone because I'm not related to any of you or even friends with you. I don't know where you guys are hiding. So I had to go up north again into the wilderness. I killed at least 3 bears and finally found at least one person who was hiding in the wilderness, that is Canada, to speak movies with me. He's the person who also told me about the Criterion Collection and is probably going to help me become radicalized into becoming a cinema snob. Sam, how are you?
Not too shabby.
How's this space been treating you? Have you been blessed by any films today so far, or is that going to be an evening thing?
Probably an evening thing. It's either games or movies tonight. We'll see.
What's the decision between?
Random stuff on my watch list, or I just started Zelda Wind Waker last night on my Wii U for the first
Oh,
time.
okay. You got to
Yeah,
stick with Wind Waker. You,
I
you
think
got to
so.
do that.
I was feeling that earlier.
Now, I've been kicking around some Zelda a little bit.
hmm
My Majora's Mask 3D, I dug out my 3DS. Well, not dug it out. I
Ooh.
got it back from a friend that I let borrow for a couple months, and I just keep looking at it. I got Skyward Sword by Yo-Hoing on my Switch, and then I probably shouldn't do that. I'm going to go play Twilight Princess HD because I've been playing this on and off for the last 5 or 6 years. I need to focus now. So this is a Zelda mood right now, okay? We are now going in a different direction. I'm sorry, Richard Linklater. We are now
Yeah,
going to talk
sorry.
about why Miyamoto is a god for blessing with Zelda. No, okay, we're not going that direction. All right. As I had brought up, right now we are going to talk about the Before trilogy, this
Woohoo!
magnificent opus of love and time and unfulfilledness in your life, directed by one Richard Linklater, and of course helped out by the two wonderful actors that helped out with writing their characters, Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy. Now, before we even start about talking about these movies, Sam, how did you encounter these movies? Because I know that my easy answer is you. So, how did you find these movies?
I don't remember how I originally heard of them, but like many years ago, my introduction to Richard Linklater was like Boyhood when I was about 13 or 14,
Mm,
which I've only seen it, I think, the one time, but I
same.
still remember it pretty vividly. It's not a film I love. I love the first half of it. The second half, like, I kind of lost. Like, I remember kind of being like, okay, even as a whiny teenager at that time, I was like, wow, this kid is like a really whiny teenager. Um, um,
Stone Meat Glass House.
yeah. But yeah, like I remember hearing about that movie at that age, and like they were like, oh, and already having an interest in movies at that time, and that's when I was like
Yes.
13 or 14. I started to like get into more foreign films and like trying to branch out my tastes a little bit more. That film I remember seeing, and they were like, they actually filmed it over the course of 12 years, and I was like, what? I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, and then I watched it, and I was like, okay, that was really cool, if not really like amazing or anything.
Yes.
Like there's some really good elements to it. Like Ethan Hawke's really great. Patricia Arquette is awesome as the mom in that movie.
Yeah.
She reminded me a little bit of my own mom in a way.
Mm,
Still enjoyed it. Not a perfect movie, but a really cool. Like it's definitely a cinematic achievement.
yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, like it's just there's just like really cool like details. Like every year they came back and shot, there was also things around that time in terms of like pop culture and stuff like that that was like incorporated into the film. They were like playing Halo 2 in one scene, and I was like, oh my god, I remember playing Halo at a very young age like that. Like it's a very nostalgic movie in ways, but which Linklater's pretty good at nostalgic. I finally watched some of
Yes.
his other stuff like Dazed and Confused pretty recently, and even though that film takes place in an era where I'll never connect to Ben Affleck having the joy of smacking middle schoolers in the butt with a like paddle like ever. Linklater's really good at like placing you there and like making you feel like you're there in a way, in a strange way.
Mm.
Like there's a connection, but like all those stereotypes out of like a high school movie are in it, but it feels like they're, those are real high school kids on screen being doofuses and
It's
getting up.
more like
Yeah.
stereotypes where it's like, well, they became stereotypes because they're true. So, like,
Yeah.
it's not like
Yeah.
the kids are being stupid, it's just
Hmm.
that kids are stupid.
Yeah, exactly. But no, like the Before trilogy, I always wanted to watch at some point, and then finally last year during the pandemic, when you have nothing to do, the world's in a state of like uncertainty. Well, what better to do than watch 100 movies or so and like finally watch these?
I love
um,
imagining that your origin story is that you were interested with movies, but it wasn't until the pandemic that you became a cinephile.
yeah, I was already pretty heavily into movies, but like the pandemic gave me a lot of like opportunity to just sit there like day and night and just binge through movies. Even though I like burned myself out a little bit last year because that was all I had to do. So and like play games and whatnot. But
Mm.
no,
Now,
finally watching these was like really nice because I finally got the the hype and the love and praise it's gotten.
so I also had an entryway with Boyhood. Yeah, sure, School of Rock, I may have watched pieces of it,
Oh
but
yeah, School of Rock.
which I every single time that I look at his filmography, I'm like, okay, like I could have known Slacker, I could have known Days and Confused before Sunrise. I didn't realize he directed the remake of Bad News Bears, like
Yeah.
Scanner Darkly,
Hmm.
Where'd You Go, Bernadette, Last
Yep.
Flag Flying. It's like I didn't know you did all this. So at some point, I'm gonna have to go try those
I
out.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I actually my first Linklater would probably be School of Rock because that was like one of those movies in elementary school that like everybody had seen and knows
Yes.
and like loves, and I still like it. I watched that again like pretty recently.
Wait, Phil,
Um,
hold on. For the record, I am
yeah,
26 now. Horrifying time of passage and all that. Sam, how old are you?
I am 21
Okay, you
for the
see,
viewers'
so
knowledge.
now what's even it's okay. It's
Yeah.
viewer. It's probably
All
only
right.
one or two people at this point now. Like
Yeah.
before, he's not talking about Marvel. I'm out of here. Ew,
Yeah.
disgusting.
Ew. Ew.
Ugh, I'm selling out eventually, just not yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fun to see that School of Rock was still something that even when I was in elementary school, the same teachers were like, "I'm just gonna keep this DVD and keep it for whenever
Yeah.
I'm hungover."
Yeah. Yeah. Literally, I remember watching it during school too. Yeah, that's so funny.
So, Boyhood is the actual entryway. Let's go with that one because School of
Yeah.
Rock, I don't really count it, right?
Yeah.
Boyhood was okay, yeah, that was 2014. I think the reason that I watched it is because at that point that I was paying attention to the Oscars,
Mm.
and Boyhood was trailing the wake of Whiplash. So that didn't exactly leave Boyhood in a
Mm.
good position for me
No.
because Whiplash is my favorite movie of all time. So everything that comes afterwards is going to get punished for not being Whiplash.
Yep.
Boyhood was a movie that honestly I appreciate more than I like, and that's more because Richard Linklater is from Houston, Texas. I live in Houston, Texas.
That's
Boyhood
right.
being directed throughout that entire time and getting to see Houston throughout different times made me feel really nostalgic for shit that I do not care about.
That's
Like,
funny. So it has
so
yeah, so it has more of a connection with you than it does with me.
exactly. So
Yeah.
I'm looking at this and seeing a kid grow up through these times. So the movie came out in 2014. You'd assume that he was 18 in 2013, so when they finished filming it.
Mhm.
So that puts him exactly at my age. Like I was 18 in 2013. So this movie cheats so hard for me where it's like, "Oh, you're a young kid growing up in Houston, Texas. Oh shit, that's me. That's me. I don't have abusive parents or anyone getting
Yeah.
divorced, but that's me. I'm not playing Halo, I'm playing GameCube. That's me." So there's a whole bunch of things to Boyhood that feels like it's cheating so hard for me, but like I still like it. I mean, there the ending where they go over to that park in Texas, like that is something that I still want to go to. My wife, who I was dating at that point, who is now my wife, watched that movie with me, and we still randomly talk about going to Big Bang National Park because of that movie.
Yeah, that's
So
a very memorable ending, I'd say,
yes,
'cause that park looked beautiful.
exactly. So Boyhood is something that I just at this point assumed that Richard Linklater was the person who he is the more thoughtful Nolan, where he's like, I just like time and I like playing around with it.
Yeah.
While Nolan likes to just like backwards, forwards, all this. Richard Linklater's like, no, no, we're just gonna stay linear. We're gonna go forward in time. Or we're gonna go back in time. That's it. We're not gonna go left, right, inverted. Fuck all that. We're just going to stay on the track.
Yeah,
So
Nolan's like thinks of time in a science fiction way, and Linklater thinks of it more in a philosophical way.
exactly. So
Hmm.
that was my own impression of him. Because besides that, there isn't really anything else of his that I've watched. Once again, not counting School of Rock. Not doing that. So
Yeah.
uh, the, the fact that when you told me that Before Sunrise, Sunset, and Midnight were basically these check-ins on a relationship, I was like, oh, I think I'm in. Like, I just love
Hmm.
the idea of
Yeah.
being able to go back and forth and take actors and being able to have them revisit and not even just put makeup on them, like they literally have the years in between on them.
Hmm.
And I always love that because those characters don't just get created and then just disappear. Like
Hmm.
they do have instances and lives before the movie. So these actors get to think about those characters that they played over time, and then using their life experience they can think, well, I know that character, I played that character, where did they end up? And
Hmm.
I like that they understood their character so well that they took them on this entire journey to understand all that. I mean, that's just something that's wonderful. And it's funny to me because you had mentioned how you watched it at 13. You remember that time when you were like in single digit ages and you were still under the impression that whenever they pulled a character out and they're like, oh man, this is this character young, you were like, oh man, I can't believe that they showed young Brad Pitt, and I can't believe that they filmed him at the age of 6
Yeah.
and waited for 20 years to film him again. Like, do you remember that?
I definitely remember thinking that probably at like age 5 or 6, probably. As I got older and more interested in films, I quickly realized, oh, that's not how that works.
Now imagine if Richard Linklater comes in, it's like, yeah, but that's what I do. It's like, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, whoa, you're insane.
Yeah.
Ugh. So at least now we know where we stand with Richard Linklater. Let's go ahead and just at least let's get through the, I guess, non-spoiler part, which to be fair, the entire thing is going to be spoilers. I feel like we
Yeah.
just need to do this to
Hmm.
stay the track, right?
Yeah.
Now, I love these movies. I love all three of them. I mean, I'm showing my hand early. It's got a special episode. I mean, look, I've done 5 of these so far, and only one I didn't really know if I loved. Okay, so of course I
Mhm.
love this one. Like this is
Yeah.
these are phenomenal movies. I love everything about them. I cannot wait to dissect them. Sam, how do you feel about these movies? Even though I assume you're probably just going to echo.
I'm gonna pretty much echo the same. The third one's my least favorite for a couple of reasons, but
Mm,
it's still a really good movie. Compared to the first two, though, I love like the first two the most, but like, or sorry, the second one I love the most out of the three. I feel like you probably are a similar, feel similar to that.
two,
But
three, one.
yeah, I would put the first one over the third one only for a couple of reasons.
Mm.
There's, I'll get in more into that later when we get to the third one, but
But we both agree that two is peak.
two is peak. Two is like watching it again. There was like a lot more things to appreciate because of how much it incorporates from the first film into the second
Yes,
very
absolutely.
nicely. And it also, like, again, like the concept of the whole trilogy, it really utilizes that 9 years, and you really feel it even without having to have watched these films 9 years apart. Like, you could feel the time, not even just how they look, but just through how they act and their mannerisms and how they've gotten as they get older throughout those films. So
Now, I can tell you right now that just the second one is just a completely different beast. Like
mm,
the first one is just a very well written romantic drama where you have these two characters who are very likable and who understand, since that they're never going to see each other again, they know that they can have those conversations that if you had it with people that you had to see daily, it might color how you see them. So
yeah.
that is a great premise, and it executes on it very nicely. So
Mhm.
it's a special movie, but there's things in there that, feel like, okay, this is just very well done. It's a very good romantic drama. I don't think that there's anything there that is like completely new. Like it is, it's so hard to it's so hard to walk this line where I want to knock down Before Sunrise, but understand that there's still a lot of good things in it that just I feel like this is just very good.
I think it's
Go for
that's
it. You try
fair.
it.
That yeah, that's fair. It's a very straightforward to the point movie.
I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's like a well above average like romance film where I feel like even then it was a risk to take a movie or have a movie like that where it's like, oh, it's a romance film, but like the two characters are just talking the entire time. Like, oh my god, like it's like My Dinner with Andre is
Oh,
like
you're
it's
right.
yeah, it's supposed to be essentially that, but with like two young people
Hold
who
on,
are
Sam.
yeah,
We understand what Dinner with Andre is. I need to stop and
yes,
explain it for a second because I know
yes,
people who listen to this audience have no idea what it is. Dinner with Andre is a movie that where the entire movie basically takes place at a dinner table, and it's just two people talking. Like that's it. I don't even know if they cut to follow someone going into the bathroom. It's just a wide shot of
yeah.
the table, isn't it?
I'm pretty sure it is. I actually haven't seen it yet, but I've
No,
always known
same.
about. Yeah, yeah. It's just one of those movies I know about because like it's just highly regarded.
Okay, good. Then we're
Yeah,
in the same
yeah,
boat here. We're
yeah,
not going to try and talk too much out of our ass when it comes to
yeah.
that.
Exactly.
So I think that's what it is. I think you nailed it. It's just very straightforward, a good movie.
Mhm.
If you know, what, screw it. Just look, all three movies are good. Good enough. Spoilers. Get out of here. Get out of
Yeah,
here. If you,
they
look,
fall in love.
what? No. Oh my God. They have problems in a marriage. Oh
Oh,
no. Wow.
life
I
life
know.
sucks sometimes.
What? Spoilers? Ah, shit, I haven't lived enough yet. I didn't
uh,
know. Alright, good enough. They got out of here, perfect. Go watch the movies. So,
yeah,
moving into the actual talk about Before Sunrise. Before Sunrise is just a very straightforward, good movie. They have two performances, two actors that can bounce off of them very well. Richard Linklater just kinda understands what it's like to fall in love and being able to have those th- I'm gonna jump the gun here. The scene where they're listening to the song and they just keep missing each other's glance.
yeah.
That's
It's great.
that's the entire thesis of the movie. The
Yeah.
entire thesis of two people who keep looking at each other, who have been able to finally intersect, still can't get to the point where the two of them meet. Like,
It is cheesy and corny at moments, but without fault. Like it's very awkward and like cringe at moments too. Like there's that like when they first meet a little, and then like as like throughout the night, there's like a little bit of that romantic tension there, and it feels like a first date. It feels like that, and even when they like, it's really cool how you could see them naturally open up more.
mm,
Because one of the things I really love about their conversations is like how much of Ethan Hawke's character Jesse. He asks like he talks a lot. He's always like spitting off about like a lot of philosophy and stuff.
mhm.
But I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a lot of moments where Celine will ask him a personal question or something to try and get to know him more as a person, and he kind of avoids the question.
He does.
He
Yeah.
avoids a lot of like because they have like a Q&A on that little bus scene,
Yeah.
and I really love that because like he goes right in and is like, "What's your first like sexual experience or something, or who's the first person you fell in love with, blah blah," and she goes like in on like about this guy she fell in love with at like a summer camp or something like that, and
Correct.
her friend had a crush on the guy, and then like she has this whole story to share with him, and then the moment she says like, "Oh, like okay, now you," and he's like, "Oh yeah, I fell in love once," and then like moving on, and like
Exactly.
it's really cool. Like everything naturally flows between the two of them, and that's the thing to making this kind of movie work is that if those two didn't have the chemistry
Yep.
to match, then it wouldn't have worked. Like it would have all fell apart, no matter how good the script was. Because they both have. I don't know if you know this, but they both have like Julie and Ethan both have screenwriting credits because
Yes.
if I remember
Well,
doing
no,
my
not in this one.
yeah.
Not in this one.
Not
I
in
don't
this
think
one,
so.
not in this one. Although from what I read, they apparently helped smooth things out for this first film, especially
Yes.
because I guess like the first script was like they both looked at it and were like, "That's not how this would work or this would work." It's incredible too because like you watch these movies without any like background knowledge. There's almost like, man, this seems too good. Like, was some of this made up on the spot and improvised? And it's like none
Mhm.
of it is improvised from what I've read. They said like everything's scripted. It almost makes sense too, given the amount of time that's like split between each film in real time. Like there's 9 years between each film. I read a little bit about their writing process and how like it took them about like 6 years to get back together, and then even then they
Yes.
like when they came up with ideas and stuff along the way, they just got in a room and just spat out like the dumbest ideas first, and then just to have fun first and just whittle things down to something they could, like an idea they could stick with, I'm guessing.
I mean, writers
Mm,
always say that the hardest part is to write,
yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
always easier to go back and refine. So you got to get those
Yeah.
stupid ideas out first,
Yeah.
so then you can refine it into something good.
In one of the interviews I was reading, as like a funny idea, they for Before Midnight, they pictured Jesse and Celine as like international spies just for fun. And I was like, I would watch that movie.
Uh,
Watch,
I
yeah.
don't think I'd want to. I don't. Okay, I'd probably
Yeah,
watch it because I'd like to see the two of them together. But I
yeah,
would just be like, yeah, that was a good movie. Did you really need to make this before midnight?
yeah.
Before
uh,
sunrise, like you're not wrong. I mean, considering that Ethan Hawke was there because of romance, of course he's going to be really cynical about anything like that. I
mhm,
wouldn't be shocked if he didn't think of Julie Delpy as being someone who's going to be that much deeper. Like I thought that maybe on the train he was like, "Look, I just need a distraction. What's the best way to get over someone? Getting under someone." So I wouldn't
mhm,
be shocked if that was his logic, but then eventually by talking to her, he realized that she was more. So then you get to that bar scene where they're playing.
pinball.
Yes, thank you. For some
Mhm.
reason, I was about to say ping pong. By the time that they're playing pinball, and he actually starts opening up about what the reason was for him to even be on that train, like that feels like the moment that he finally starts accepting that. Oh, okay, I do actually like this girl, and I'm probably no longer using her like I thought I was initially.
Yeah, there's definitely connection between the two of them. Like immediately, like they kind of have that like that little cheesy glance at the beginning of the movie where they look at each other on the train, and then it's funny that like a couple fighting got them to start talking to one another, especially since
I mean,
before.
but the
Yeah,
conversation that they lead into afterwards, like
yeah,
it makes it work so well. I mean, that it's so weird how it feels so trite that it would be an argument between a couple to bring them together. But
yeah,
I think I'm just gonna go out and say it. This might be the best meet cute since 22 Jump Street.
yeah. Did
Like
they?
the two of them who, after seeing an old couple just argue with each other, and they then have a meet cute based off of their anxieties of getting to that point. I mean,
Yeah,
that just feels like that's perfect. Like it doesn't feel like it's I'm a busy business girl and I accidentally got into the wrong taxi and I left my
yeah.
phone.
It's yeah. It's not like. Mhm.
There's so much just trite shit in the romance genre that it makes me happy that this one not only has a reason for them meeting, but then eventually executes on the meeting itself, like what brought them together.
Yeah, it's not a Tom Hanks Meg Ryan movie of how they meet or anything like that. It feels very natural how they start talking to each other, and it's not like he like bumped into her somewhere or anything like that. They just kind of this like very little small marriage scuffle happens on a train, and they're just like he's like, oh, do you know what happened there? Like
D-
like this German couple or something, or that they were just arguing, and then they go from there. And one of my favorite moments in the movie, and this is why I love it, is when he asks her to come with him in
yes.
Vienna there to like it's one of those like rapid fire decisions of if I don't do this then I'm gonna probably regret this the rest of my life, but like
Yes.
do you want to come hang out with me? I would be kicking myself too for the rest of my life if like I had that experience with someone and then
Correct.
like I just went on my merry way and then like
It's like
because
who was that person? What could
yeah,
have happened?
yeah, exactly, and you wouldn't be able to let go of the thought of what happened to that person after they met.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's such a yeah.
I hope any single person who watched this movie contemporarily realized that that was just a perfect pickup line, and this is such a
Me.
small indie movie that you're never no one is ever going to see this. No one saw this at the time. You
Mhm.
could easily use that line on someone who you just met anywhere. You could be like, "Well, I mean, you want to stay here at this Target right here and wonder who was that handsome man that talked to me?" Like you can repurpose that pickup line for so many
You
things
really
that I
can.
really hope that people who watch this movie were like, that is the perfect pickup line. I'm using that all the time.
Yeah, I feel like for anyone who I feel like you could take almost some notes here on how well Jesse picks up Celine there on the train, just how well he was able to chat with her. He's very confident because he obviously he hides his inner emotions for most of it there before he reveals why he's on a trip towards the end.
Correct. I mean,
Hmm.
you wouldn't really be able to tell by looking at him like, "Oh, yeah, this is a guy who traveled across a whole bunch of different countries and a gigantic ocean just to get broken up with."
I loved when he finally revealed that because it's just like, oh man, he was blindly in love and followed after someone that really didn't see him the same way. And like he in the later films admits, I think in Before Midnight, he says like, oh, he's like, you're the only woman I ever loved, and it's like, well, like you had relationships before this one, like
But I'm pretty sure what he
yeah.
means by that is
Yeah,
like,
he means a genuine connection, but yeah, like
correct.
yeah, because like he obviously has been through his fair share of heartbreak.
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he fell in love right there at the train with the fact that they were just verbally sparring just back and forth. He probably fell in love at that point, but he still probably didn't accept it until the bar scene. Like the entire time he's just
Yeah.
like, this isn't something I could trust right now because I just got broken up with. Like, is this just a rebound thing? Am I just lonely and I need literally any touch I can get? Like, I
Yeah.
wouldn't be shocked if that's all internally going on.
It's funny you mention that because yeah, like a lot of this film, it feels like just two lonely people finding,
Yes,
like
each other.
yeah, just finding each other at the right moment to kind of just help them what they're going through. Because I think Celine's character in that one's going through school and stuff and finishing up, and she even mentions her last like relationship and how like obsessed she got with it. Especially that was a funny story that she told to him in that scene in the bar. But on another thing too, I think it's funny because there's no like crazy editing tricks or anything like that.
Correct.
There's nothing like crazy in the presentation, but the cinematography is gorgeous in these movies.
Yes.
That's the thing about movies is you could just have some really like because these movies easily could have just brought on anybody. I think of any other filmmaker, someone like Judd Apatow or somebody that like makes very standard rom-coms and like those
Just speaking
films,
lines mostly.
yeah, and like any other director who would tackle this kind of film would not even think to care about like, oh, cinematography. At least Linklater and everybody involved with this, whoever was involved with it behind the scenes was like, we're going to capture some really gorgeous shots of this town and the setting because the whole time it really makes you feel like you're in like a fairy tale. And even they kind of reference that in the third film where like that one night and in the second film too, they kind of refer to that night as like a very important moment, like it was a fairy tale.
I
I'm
mean, it
like,
was something that was taken at a time. Like, even they
yeah.
themselves say it at
Mm.
the end of the movie, where it's like, we are now entering back into the time stream.
They're in a moment of time. Everything around them doesn't exist except for them and like together for one night. And it's really, yeah, I love it. I
Yes.
think it's a great movie, even if it's like pretty straightforward. Because like there's a lot more to love too about their conversations. Like they jump around from like
Yes.
politics to kind of gender dynamics, and it doesn't feel forced at all. It feels like genuine. It's funny too because like when they're talking about men are like this, but women are like this, and men are like this, and women are like this. They even get to a point where they're like, "Can we stop talking about this because this is going nowhere?" And those conversations too about politics, gender dynamics, relationships, and whatever they continue into each film. It's just they have different perspectives on things over time.
What I love about
Mhm.
those conversations more than anything else is that all of them, like at least for the first movie, eventually later on they have more reasons why they kind of talk the way that they do. This one, the fact that they from the offset just say that this is our one day, this is my own example. I know that a lot of times whenever I would meet people, I would have to roll it back. I'm not going to be my full self. But then
Yeah.
eventually I just hit a point a couple of years ago where I said, fuck it, I don't care anymore. I'm just going to do what I do. And if they don't vibe, I'm sorry. Just keep your distance then.
Yeah.
So what I love is that these two, by knowing that they're never going to have to meet each other again, they're not going to have to tiptoe around different topics to worry about maybe offending the other because hey, at the end of the day they're never going to see each other again. Like
Mhm.
it's no chance like, oh, I said something really offensive and the next time I go grocery shopping I might run into you. Like no, they're going to be across different continents. There's no chance. So at this point they're okay with speaking to their true mind without having to roll it back or sugarcoat anything because they just know it's okay. I don't have to really worry about this person because we understand the rules of the day, which is when the day's over, that's
Yeah.
it. We're done.
They're never seeing each other again. They could just basically preach their politics and their worldviews to each other and have a conversation and pick apart each other's discussions too.
No, I mean, like that one
Yeah.
scene where they went to go have dinner and Ethan Hawke is just like, oh man, the fortune telling this is all
Oh yeah,
bullshit.
the four. Yeah,
That's the one
yeah,
moment where it gets uncomfortable and you're just
mm,
like, oh, like she even started looking like, oh, I
yeah,
don't know if I like this guy. And
yeah,
I was starting to think at that point, I was like, what's the point of that scene? But like
yeah,
that scene to me is when it clicked in, where it's like they just know this isn't going to happen again. So at this point, he
yeah.
has no reason to kind of take their shit. Like, well, I mean,
Yeah,
whatever. We're just gonna use that phrase. Like, he doesn't really have to sit here and just kind of pretend like he cares. Like, he's just gonna be like, well, oh, you really believe that? Like, okay, I guess. Like,
he,
it's not like
yeah.
it's not going to be something that becomes a problem later because like I'm leaving you after this point. So
Yeah, he's very yeah, like that fortune teller moment. There's some other there's something else in that first film. Like the poem. Yeah, the poem and the fortune teller. He's a very like
cynical
skeptic.
person.
Yeah, he's a very cynical person. He's very skeptical of anything that's like not in the way of like scientific thinking.
Yes.
I feel like we're both like fortune tellers are dumb. It's something that she enjoys and he kind of just completely takes like a really nice,
Like, oh, it's a party trick.
yeah, like it's a party trick and like he kind of ruins a moment for her because she was really happy to see like to have that experience and then he's immediately like
You're
this
dumb
is
for
so
thinking
dumb.
that this
Yeah,
is
you're
fun.
dumb. You're dumb for thinking that. Same with the poem and like she even calls him as soon as like they get to the guy who wrote them the poem too. He gets called out for that attitude. He realizes he's like, oh, like
Like,
he's like,
maybe I am
okay,
being an asshole.
yeah, I am being a bit of an asshole and
Maybe I am a guy who just got broken up with a couple of hours ago.
yeah. Yeah, it's like that was a really nice way of like incorporating that uncomfortable scene back. And even she mentions after that, after they get the poem and stuff, she says, "Oh yeah, we had our first fight or whatever." So it's like they're almost like going through the stages of a relationship in one night in a weird way.
No, I mean that because that's what it is. They have
Mm,
the one day and they're
mm,
just saying, we're going to fill in everything that we can because like this is it. Like, how often do you ever meet someone just once that you knowingly know it's going to be one time? So at that
mm,
point, you just say, hey, pack everything in. Imagine if one day you just, I don't know, let's say that you get into a car crash, you wake up a couple of years later, and they just tell you, hey, somehow we were only able to bring you back for one day. Here you go. Like, after this, for some reason, your
yeah,
heart's gonna explode. Like, I
yeah.
don't know. So that's pretty much them. Like, they just know that this is your one day. After this, it's not like you ever have to worry about this day again. Like, if this day turns out bad, well,
Yeah.
shit. Okay, don't worry. You never have to think about it again. You're never
Never
gonna
have to
do
see
this
her
again.
again. Yeah.
Mhm. And if it's a great day, well then cool. You don't need to ruin that by trying to recapture it.
Hmm.
Like, it
Yeah.
just becomes that nice memory and you move on with your day. But of course there's a sequel, so we'll talk about that.
Two sequels.
Oh no, I
Yeah.
mean more of the draft
Yeah.
of trying to
Yeah.
recapture it because that's pretty much
Yeah.
what the second one is. But like I said, we'll get there.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to finish talking about Before Sunrise once we feel like
Mhm.
we're good to move on.
Yeah, I feel like I just probably have like a couple more things to say because it's again like we've mentioned a few times now. It's like it's a very straightforward movie.
Yes.
It's very sweet. It's very endearing. It's funny too. Like I actually laughed a few times, even on my rewatches. They're not afraid to be vulgar either in these movies and have like uncomfortable conversations at times. And that's what makes it very genuine.
One of my favorite things is that they legitimately have these conversations where you're just like, "Oh, that's real conversations that you have at some point as a
Hmm.
couple." Like whenever they
Yeah.
start talking about farts in Before Midnight, I was just like, "Did you just incorporate farts in a Criterion Collection movie and it fits perfectly?" Just
Yep.
good job. Good job.
Good job.
So
uh,
there's a whole bunch of things in this movie that like we're humans, we're just discussing creatures like in general. So the
mhm.
fact that they go in and they just have no problem talking about sex, like they have no problem talking about all of the politics, just all these topics that they tell you, hey, maybe you probably shouldn't talk about that the first time you meet someone. The fact that they just have this ease to go into it is what gives the movie so much of the electricity.
Yeah. I feel like there was probably something I was thinking of, but it's just lost now. But I love it. It's one of my favorite romance films, and it's funny because it even surprises people around me that like as much as I am a movie guy,
Mm.
if I ever mention a romance film or these movies or something, it's like, oh, you watch romance movies? It's like, well, what did you expect? Like, it's funny because people that know me pretty well are surprised at moments because it's like I watch a lot of movies and I'm a pretty big cinephile, so like,
The thing is that I
or
imagine
yeah,
that that's the thing. I know you're cynical. I
yeah,
know you are. So the fact that you're like, yes, I can allow myself to feel something in a romance movie. It's like,
Mhm.
What? What do you mean? What do you mean? You're telling me you're not just watching depressing Korean dramas?
Yeah, I could still enjoy something that has like a upbeat positivity, I guess, or like is a very like genuinely happy film, or I guess, or the opposite of the more dour, dire stuff that I usually watch. As long as it feels genuine, like even the sad stuff has to feel genuine too.
Yes. And that's where I stood because I remember
Mm-hmm.
watching these. I knew I had my wife with me because I knew that even if I don't like it, she's going to vibe with this.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very strange to get to the end of the movie and both of us were looking at each other like, are we on the same page on this one? Like, did we both like this? And oh man, like I'll probably end up bringing her more up once we get to Before Midnight because that was the one that like
Yeah,
destroyed her.
yeah,
So all right. One
yeah.
thing I do want to mention because it's just something that I love. I love that we have our establishing shots at the beginning of the movie. I love that we have pretty much establishing shots of showing where they are. And then I love that at the end of the movie, it fulfills the promise and it just shows all these places in daytime and all
Mm-hmm.
of them just feel like they have this kind of lifelessness. Like they're just
Yep.
still like, it almost feels like you have that
The
trope
fairy tale's
where
gone.
yes. I
Yeah.
mean, you also have kind of like that trope of like winter turning into spring and the snow is slowly melting away. It feels like that entire place, like all of Austria. Is it Austria? Yeah, we're just going to go with Austria. All of Austria was frozen in crystalline, and now with the sun coming up, it is now slowly coming back to what reality is. Like, no longer the
Yeah.
frozen in time Austria that they were in. And so I just love that the fact that even the location around them felt like we need to hold on so you can enjoy everything that you can as crystal clear as possible. We're not going to move any waves. You guys are the waves right now. Go where you want.
Yeah, what you just said is pretty much, yeah, you said it perfectly. Because it
I'm
literally just feels like they woke up, like it finally looked like they woke up from the dream. Like I think the last thing I probably just want to touch on is just obviously that scene at the end where they leave each other is really hard to watch because
oh
it's like you could tell too in like the last little bit. It's like especially that scene on the boat that they had where they were like they just sat down for a quick moment to
yes.
be like this is going to be hard to say goodbye, and they're like let's say goodbye now, and there's a bit of heartache even in their voices then that's like they got to say bye to each other, and then after at the station it's like even it's worse than what they thought it was going to be.
Oh my god. Just
Yeah.
seeing in their faces that they just realize like we aren't strong enough from this. Like we're not able to just tell ourselves this was one night. And the
Mhm.
fact that they slowly start moving the goalposts of like, no, 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 we can still make this work somehow. But it's like, but we don't want to do long distance. That's too real. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
We need to figure out how to still keep the magic and the being able to just say no, we're coming back in 6 months. Like, okay, once again, let's just ignore that these other two movies are talking. Let's talking whatever.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and ignore that these movies exist, not
Yeah.
talking. So just in this scenario, we are in 1995 all the way to 2002, and we don't know the next movie exists. Ignoring all of that, I think that they meet up with each other. Like, even with me being the cynical person that I am, the fact that those two people had this entire night and they instantly vibed with each other, I know that both of them show up.
it's funny because like obviously we get an answer to that, but like
Yes, correct.
I love how they answer it in the second film. So like even trying to think of it without that knowledge, I'm like, I just love how they answered it because they answered it. They really screwed themselves at the end of the movie. They're like, we're not going to
Yes.
give each other any sort of info how to contact each other. We're just going to hopefully meet up in 6 months from now and hope that both of us remember that night we had and everything, our names, etc., and meet here at this exact spot. And there's like, yeah, like the way the film ends is just really great because there is just that uncertainty, and you obviously, and even in this beginning of the second film, which I'm guessing we'll get to shortly, there's a bit of kind of like a meta aspect to it and how
Yeah.
it answers the question in the first bit. But yeah, I couldn't imagine. I don't know what the context of this movie was like in '95 when it came out, because I would love. I don't know if people knew back then that this was supposed to be a planned trilogy, or if like
No, no, it was no. Like I don't think there was a plan
I
at
don't
all.
know, because like I know like the idea of this trilogy, Linklater said that like he based it around these two characters meeting, of his own experience of meeting some woman he met in a toy shop.
Correct.
Yeah, and it's funny to think like back then like an audience member seeing this movie and just being like, "Oh man, I wonder if they ever got together." And then like 9 years later that person is minding their own business and they're like, "There's a sequel?"
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that would blow your
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah, there's just some like cool things like that with certain movies where you just kind of when they came out then and how they hold up now.
Now, personally,
Mhm.
like I realized that you just kind of went, yeah.
Yeah,
You wouldn't be able to separate yourself. For
yeah,
me, I think the fact that this night was as perfect as it was, it makes me think that they would both try to make the effort to meet back up. Now, I don't know if they would be able to. Okay, so I'm asking. I'm talking from like 95 all the way to 2002, where we don't know there's a sequel. Damn it. Okay, I'm trying here.
Mhm.
Now, talking from that possibility and all that, I still think they would make the attempt to meet up. They would both take the trains, they would need to take the planes necessary to get to that point. I don't know at that point if they would realize that maybe they hate each other. Maybe at that point they realize, oh man, we're really just trying to chase magic that didn't happen.
Mhm.
Like I don't want to think beyond that, because that's where I wouldn't be able to separate myself from the sequels and thinking, oh, all that. No, but I do see that with this entire night, they do come back. They do come back. Maybe it's even more painful where they both went and they were off by an hour or something. So
Yeah,
something more painful like that.
yeah.
But okay, now there's at least one thing I want to touch on, because before I'm pretty sure we're ready about to move on, but
Oh yeah.
there's at least one more thing that I want to bring up that I had completely forgotten. The fake phone call they do.
Yes. Oh my god.
Go for it. I'll let you handle it first.
That is a really good scene too. That is just really sweet, I even love they kind of pan to some of the other patrons in the restaurant there. Where
Hmm.
like they got the guy who's like, "Oh, the service is terrible here. It's like the person working in New York would get fired for this," and it's like, well, you're not in New York, you're in Vienna, and you know this is a very relaxed place, and
Very.
not
It's not New
very.
York.
It's not New York, and their conversation there, how Celine calls her roommate, and then Jesse calls his friend. Yeah, just another good example of just like great chemistry, really good writing, and just them being adorable,
Yeah.
as very endearing and adorable as usual in that first film.
I mean, this
Yeah.
is also another moment that you can steal this idea and use it
Yep.
to pick up someone. Like,
Yep.
if you hit them with that, hey, you'll never know if you'll actually regret this, and then you can end the date using this. Like, you can be like, oh, well, how was that date? Well, you know what? I'm gonna just pretend to call someone as if I was talking to them after this date. Well, everything went great. Like, oh my god, that is Celine obviously was in the bag. Like,
Yeah.
I just can't stop and think about every single thing that Ethan Hawke did in this movie, where I'm like, that was just the every single time I was that meme of the guy going, excellent move. Like, that's everything
Yeah.
that he does. But
Oh man, yeah.
just it's so brilliant to be able to frame that entire conversation that way, where you're just telling exactly, like, they're just giving each other a report card of everything that they've done up to that point.
Mhm.
And I'm not gonna lie, it would be nice to get a report card in life. Like, it would be really nice to be able to be
Yeah,
told, "Hey, don't worry, you're doing this right, you're doing that wrong." And the
yeah,
fact that they can easily have that conversation to tell each other, "Oh, well, this, I like all of this." He was a little bit weird about the fortune telling, but there's just so many different things where it's like, this is great. Like, I love that scene so much.
yeah. Oh, there's just so many good moments throughout the entire thing.
I realized that we focused a lot on Jesse this entire time, like,
Yeah, I
and Jesse's point of
well,
view.
it is kind of fair considering we probably, as
Yes,
guys, we
yes,
relate more to Jesse
yes.
and the kind of the dating world from our perspectives. But I have a lot more to say probably about Celine in the second film and third film.
Oh, okay.
I love her character just as much. Like I don't love one more than the other, and that's the really nice thing because like how do you can obviously relate more to one or the other, but you obviously wouldn't have a movie without like you couldn't be missing one of them.
Ethan Hawke just walking
Yeah,
alone in the streets of
talk.
Vienna
Yeah,
talking to himself.
yeah, like a crazy man. Yeah,
Oh
um,
my god, can you imagine
yeah.
Jesse pretending to be a feminist walking down the streets talking to himself?
Oh, oh man, that'd be great.
Oh
That'd
my
be
god.
great.
I need him imitating a French accent. I need this.
Oh. Well, we get him imitating some accents at before midnight. Even I
That
remember.
is true. That is
Yeah.
true. I will say that you're not wrong. Of course, that's why. So I don't feel too bad about leaving Celine unspoken of, at least that much, when it comes to this one. Are we good to move on?
Oh yeah, we're good to move on. Before
Okay.
Sunrise, watch it if you haven't. If you're still listening, it's great.
Before Sunrise, if you've gotten this far and you're still listening, what is wrong with you? Why are you doing this? Like, look, the good thing is that even though we're spoiling it, like, we're still not spoiling it because, like, the entire point of the movie is to see these interactions. Like, if
Mhm.
you just know at the end what happens, it doesn't ruin the movie. So, congrats! Even though you try to spoil yourself, you did it. You screwed up.
Mhm.
Ha ha ha! Nah, nah, nah. Right. So, moving on to Before Sunset, masterpiece of a film, absolute masterpiece of a film. I
Fantastic.
Oh my god, how I was ready to knock down Before Sunrise. I need to build up Before Sunset. Before Sunset is fucking art. This is something that is completely different. This is something that I ain't ever seen before. I love this movie. Sam, gush forward for a little bit and then we'll go deeper.
I love it as well, and it is one of those examples of how we speak of films like just like the greatest sequels of all time. People
Yes.
talk about like anything from how people talk about their love for Empire Strikes Back to things like Blade Runner 2049 or and some other stuff where this film takes a lot of the first film and just not necessarily double down, but builds upon the first film without like,
Ruining it.
yeah, without ruining it in any way. And this film's like it's the shortest too of the trilogy, which is
Wait,
really funny.
I have to bring this up. How
Yeah.
the hell do you make a sequel to a movie with with an ambiguous ending that you can decide how you feel about it? How do you make a sequel to that and somehow give a satisfying answer that doesn't piss anyone off and is even better for building off of it? How do you accomplish that?
I don't know, but like this film does it. And then
Yeah.
and at like a very brisk pace of like 80 minutes. Like it's like just under an hour and a half long and like it doesn't waste any time getting right into it, and they even add like a layer of tension this time
Yeah.
around because it's not oh they have a whole night together, it's literally an hour and
Hours.
a half.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's very short, like they don't have a lot of time, and this is the first time they've seen each other in 9 years, and the two of them are fantastic. Both actors are great. It's shot beautifully again and even has some really good music choices.
You're talking about the ending, aren't you?
Yes, that. And there's some track that plays in each film. I can't remember, but there's an actual score. You get a little bit of it
Okay.
in each film. It just obviously isn't very present until either the beginning or end, but yeah,
I
like
am
oh,
I'm itching. I'm itching. I can't wait. I need to jump to the ending.
yeah, that's
And
fair. That's fair.
oh my god, the music at the end, the fact that
Waltz for a night.
the movie just knows there is nothing we can say at this point, so we're just going to use music. I can't believe just the entire time you get to the ending, and that is the peak of the movie. You were just waiting to see what is happening. The music just tells you everything that you need to know about these characters. Baby, you were gonna miss that plane. I know.
Yeah.
And then it just ends. And I
Yep.
couldn't I am such a fan of a movie ending like 2 minutes. Like the movie ends at the highest point that it could
Yep.
have. D-
It's
I'm
yep.
just such a fan of that when a movie can just
It
realize,
knows.
yeah, this is
Yep.
the moment.
This is
What
the
do we
moment.
need to add after this?
Yep.
Nothing.
You know, you said your favorite movie of all time is Whiplash, and it ends
Which
at like the perfect moment. You're like, it's just like it's one of those movies. Yeah, I don't even know where to begin, but I just love that that whole ending. It's just like again like the added tension, and it's finally like that line. That line is basically like the letting go of the audience and finally saying like it's finally over. They finally got together. Um,
Yes, like,
of
they're
the
just like, "Look,
yeah,
we'll figure it out. I don't exactly know
yeah,
how I'm gonna get divorced. I've got this
yeah.
kid. I don't know how, but we're about to risk it all to get this to work."
Exactly. They just the entire time it's just this like you're just like are is it actually going to happen this time? Cuz like I'm going to jump before we dive more into the ending, I do want to jump back to the very beginning cuz
Oh,
like
yeah, no, no. It's all
I
free flowing.
love oh yeah. I love the opening to this film cuz like I said I mentioned earlier that it kind of addresses the first film
Yes,
like first film's ending in a meta way where with the events of what happened because Jesse is now a novelist who's on a book tour and the book just so happens to be about the one night that happened 9 years ago
which is
and
real meta when you consider that Linklater had
yeah
written the first movie about an
yeah
actual experience he had.
yeah and then on top of that the people asking him there are like the journalists there people that are interviewing him are literally asking him about the ending and they're like oh did you like this is obviously a book about you did you ever like did you guys meet back up in 6 months and then like the film for a little bit longer is still like did they and like he's not really answering the question he's like he literally says like that take the piss out of everything but then like he turns and looks as he's describing that story like his idea for his next book and then he sees Celine. That is one of my favorite moments out of the whole trilogy is when he sees Celine there at the bookstore and he looks like he shits his pants.
That edit that
Yep.
edit of flashback, 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 and then you see I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really realize that that was Celine. Like, I was watching, I was like, "Oh, that's still a flashback. I guess that was at the cafe. I guess that's new footage." And then he sees her, and I realized, "Oh, that's not a flashback, she's here. Oh my g what the hell? Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god." Like, I immediately had my brain racing where I was like, "Wait, this isn't a flashback. Okay, wait, how does she get there? What is going on? Wait, okay, if he's talking about all this, he wrote the book. What?" Like, all of my brain just started going 1,000 miles an hour
Yeah.
trying to figure out all the time that happened in between, and just
Mhm.
oh my god, that is something that I hadn't felt in a while. And considering that the pacing of this movie is insane, like it just does not stop. The
Mhm.
fact that we start off so quickly like that at the beginning and it never relents, that's just impressive filmmaking.
It is. It really is cuz like the two of them just like immediately are like, "Oh, hey, hi. Oh my god, like it's you." It's you. It's actually you and like
You weren't
there's
just a
just
dream.
yeah, and it's funny because like even though at this point like this film is obviously later they do bring up the whole film is kind of like the aftermath of the one night and what it kind of did to them as people.
It ruined them. Like,
It
it
ruined
legitimately
yeah.
ruined them. It
And
gave them the greatest night of their lives,
and
and they realized that the rest of their life sucks because of it.
it's funny because even though that is what happened, them meeting again like that and the day they had like that night they have together again, or like this like hour and a half they have,
Mhm.
is in ways them recapturing that night. They just can't really see it.
And they
Um,
didn't realize that they could recapture the magic. They were
yeah,
so scared of killing it that they
yeah,
put that space in between them, and they
yeah.
realized as soon as they were back, boom, they're
Mhm.
back.
Well, it's funny too because like the entire time during this film, as soon as they jump out of the bookstore and then they're like, "Oh, let's go to a coffee, like a coffee shop," and then go here. They're the both of them are not only like they're stalling for a lot of time
Yes.
by moving place to place and they're also trying to not end the conversation, but they're also back to that like that feeling from the first film where like the both of them are kind of again like are holding back, but now since they have the knowledge of knowing each other, they're holding back a lot of that like pain that night left them with and everything else. And also like their lives as well, because like their lives are, as we get further into the film, it's clear that Jesse and Celine both live, even though their careers are really good and the work they're doing, even if some of the work they're doing is a little Celine. I really love when Celine like talks about how she jumped different jobs because like she was just feeling like it wasn't going, it didn't turn out the
Fulfill her.
way it wanted. Yeah, it wasn't fulfilling at all. Yeah, like these two are just like they got the careers they wanted, they worked hard for what they wanted, and that they're not fulfilled romantically because
Still
they
have this one night of perfection
yeah,
that they can never recapture.
they can never recapture, or at least in their minds they think they can't recapture because
They
yeah, like
don't think that magic is gonna be there if they were ever
yeah,
meet again.
exactly. And it's funny how much they just hold back pretty much the entire time. And finally, one of my favorite moments is when they've been stalling for so long by having these conversations again about like politics and everything. Celine finally asks Jesse about like, so I saw you're married, and he's like, oh, I knew this was going to come up at some point.
The best
Um,
part is that most of the conversations, what's impressive is to me that they have the same conversations that they do in the first movie, where they just have their actual ideas and they battle.
mhm,
But not only that, it is now mixed in with a purpose into each one of them, where they just keep trying to disarm the other to figure out what happened in those 9 years. Like the fact that
mhm,
you just have this tension where you want to see what's the next thing that they say, not only because you like to figure out what's going on in the mind of these characters, but because you can also see, like, okay, yeah, you're talking about the politics, you're talking about your previous jobs. You are trying to disarm him to figure out, hey, so what happened then? Like, it's one of those fascinating things that you do in a conversation where you try to get to eye level with someone so then you can start peeling back their layers. Like, it's something that I don't think I've seen in a movie where you have these two people that have so much that they want to say to each other, but not like, I want to kill this person. Like, I just have so many unfulfilled positive emotions to you with a lot of pain behind it that I need to get to a point where I know you are available to hear me and not run away immediately.
yeah, because like one of my favorite lines in the movie is when Celine tells Jesse like, I was fine until I read your fucking book.
Yes.
And that line,
The
like,
way she even delivers it
yeah.
too.
Oh, it's perfect. And not only just that scene, but like there's two things mentioning their lives and careers. I have it here in my notes that I noticed because I said this film before Sunset does this really well with incorporating a lot from Sunrise, where in the first film Jesse mentioned that his parents only got married because his mom was pregnant with him,
Mhm,
and his father even admits at one point that like out of anger during a fight with his mom that like, oh, Jesse was a mistake.
mhm.
And Jesse before Sunset now is married to someone who he
Yep.
never loved and got accidentally pregnant, but he loves his son, like he loves his son very much. And he talks, it's really heartbreaking when you see him talk about like, I suffer through all this hell with my wife and everything else just for those little moments with my son. And you could really feel that in his voice. He even said like, I'm willing to put up with this for the rest of my life for as long as I get to have those moments with my son. And that's again one of my favorite moments in the trilogy because like you even see a bit more of that like love he has for his son in the third film at the beginning at the
Yes.
airport. He's not really ready to say goodbye, but his son kind of is like, you know, he's a young kid, so he's like,
Exactly.
oh, like see you later, dad. But and even Celine in the first film, she talks about a man who she knew that worked hard his entire life for a career and like admiration, that by the time he was 52 and never got married, how much his life was meaningless because he had no one to share that with. And
Mhm.
Celine's 32 at that time in the film and before Sunset, and she, while has that job she's very proud to have, her boyfriend at that time and like everything else is not fulfilling, and she has no one to share it with because her boyfriend, she explains, is a war photographer and he's never around. It's funny too because she even has that like thing where she's trying to like she's again trying to put up that like that shield in front of her where she's like, oh, I don't need anybody around, but then like also says like, oh, I need to be loved and like I need someone to be there for me. So it's like it's clear she actually wants a love life that isn't her boyfriend popping in and out of her life constantly like that, where like he'll be gone for several months at a time. And it's funny that they both from that first film in a weird way got to that point that they were like, oh, we'll never, because like Jesse's like, I'll never be like my parents, and he's like, well,
Yeah, you
he
are.
is. And then Celine also managed to find her way in that situation. And it's just, it's once again, this is a sequel where, much like the first film, it was two lonely people. Now these two lonely people are just finding each other again, this time, and to where they originally wanted to be.
I mean, in the first movie, they are two lonely people that are just floating out in the ether. In
Mhm.
Before Sunset, they are two people that feel just completely alone within a completely crowded room. Like that's what it is. Like even though Ethan Hawke has his son, like Celine has no one. Like she
Yeah.
really has her boyfriend just so then she can be like Celine thinks she's a cat when she's a dog. Like cats, you can
Yeah.
really just hand them food, pet them once, they disappear for a week, and then they come back. Like she thinks that that's who she is, but she realizes she's not. She's a dog. She's a person who likes to be able to be around someone. She likes
Yeah.
being able to have this constant interaction with someone that she just can't bring herself to say that she needs someone else. So that's why she loves having the boyfriend. She'd be like, "Oh, well, I have him, but I don't need him." Well, yeah, you don't need him because you never see him. You have to not need him to not lose your mind. So
Yeah.
they're
It's
all just setting
mhm.
themselves up with these walls where if they stay safe in these walls, they never have to question themselves like they did that one night.
Mhm.
So, like, I love all this.
Oh, it's all so good. It's also rich with so much to talk about because like not even just like aspects of their conversation or like quotes you can rip from the film. Like there's just like I mentioned, like there's things that they managed to incorporate really well from the first movie and follow up on. And yeah, it's funny that they make a sequel. In most Hollywood films, it's like, oh, they obviously got together and happily ever after and
Now we're gonna have a
whatever.
sequel where we just start
Where
tearing them apart because you
yeah,
need to have a movie.
they're really at their most broken now because they've lived their entire 20s and without each other, and
Yes.
they wasted time on relationships that or like with people that meant nothing. I also love when like Celine has her whole angry fit in the car towards the end,
Oh
because it's
my
like she
god.
says she's mad about how many guys that like she's been with who eventually they not only broke up with her, but the next person they got with they got married to, and then those guys would tell her like, thank you for teaching me how to love. And it's like, oh, like, and she's not even mad that those guys didn't what was
Did it end up with her?
yeah, it didn't end up with her. It's the fact that they never asked her to marry her. And them saying that, those guys saying that, makes it feel like she's been used as like, almost like an emotional punching bag in a ways where like she was there for these guys. It almost
I
like,
mean, it feels
yeah,
like it's always bridesmaid, never the bride. Like
yeah, yeah,
she can't let herself understand that she actually wants love. So the fact
mm,
that every single time that she has an ex that then finds love and gets married, she does not ever want to acknowledge the fact that that is something she wants. She isn't just a person who is an island. No person is an island. And the fact that
yeah,
she can't accept that means that every single time that she's confronted with it, with some of her exes going, "Thank you, you know, you taught me what actually love means." Like she's there thinking, I don't know what love means. How did I teach you this? How is it that I have the ability to teach someone this, but I don't know what I'm teaching you myself? Like that has to be incredibly frustrating.
it really must be because you hear it in her voice and the performance, like just how tired she is of having this endless loop of people who kind of fly by in her life and don't really want to have a long term relationship with her and don't want to commit to her or anything like that. And even again, that one night so many
Yeah.
years ago had that effect on them. Where that moment too with Ethan Hawke's character talking about his son, he says like, I gave up on the whole idea of like of like what romance is, or like what a romantic life is, because he kind of thought that it was just like, he was eventually so miserable that it was just like this, again, this fairy tale idea that doesn't ever happen. She kind of a similar way. I really love too. I feel like you probably love this moment when like he's finally pouring his heart out, and like Celine reaches out to him for a quick moment, but then pulls her hand back.
Yes.
She wants to just comfort him, but can't.
She herself doesn't know how to express herself, and that's
Yeah,
the moment where she's like, "This is my chance to finally let go," and she still can.
yeah. She still can't even, because it's like there's still that like element of they still won't just confess to each other, even though they're pouring their hearts out about how miserable their lives are, and how
Like, they
all
just
like
say all of their problems and then just stop shy from what the solution is.
yeah, it's so heartbreaking to watch these two be so sad. But it's like you just wanted to, ideally you wanted have them to have met up originally. And it's actually, I love that moment too early in the film when like she asks him like immediately. She's obviously like, "Oh, I obviously know what this book is about.
Mhm.
But I have to ask you, did you go back to
Oh.
Vienna?" And he's like, "Oh no, of course not." And he's like trying to, again,
Oh.
he's pinning up that front again like he did in the first film.
No, I don't
And
even think that's what it is. I think he
oh,
just doesn't wanna make her feel bad.
I don't think he wants to do that, but on top of that, I also think it'll make him feel worse for bringing it, because like he went there and he got heartbroken,
Mm.
and like, and again, like he doesn't want to seem he
Pining.
ag- yeah, he doesn't, that entire time, like I mentioned, it's up until the very end when they finally pour their hearts out in the car about how everything sucks. They just put up this front the entire time. They don't want to admit to anything. They just want to act like everything's been going okay. When he reveals it to her, her reaction is actually like, it feels genuine because she doesn't know how to react to it other than laugh, because it's so like, oh my god, he actually did, like I don't know how to I don't know what to say to that.
It's like
Like
people laughing at seeing, like, something horrifically
horrific,
traumatic.
yeah.
It's like, I do not think I have the mental capability to process that. Like,
Yeah,
imagine having the greatest night of your life, and then the person who you're supposed to meet again with actually was there and you stood them up. Like, that is
yeah,
something that she probably if it were something that were less emotional that she was involved in, like, I'm pretty sure she would have broken down crying. But the fact that
yeah.
all of it is just completely fucked, like, that's what has her laughing. Like, it reached that pinnacle of like, I can't process this. I can only laugh.
Oh yeah, like it's because like I've had that reaction to shocking news where it's just like I don't know what to do but laugh, because
Yeah, you
I
fucking
just,
joker.
yeah, yeah. Because it's just, how do you react to such a thing? And like, and obviously she knew that was going to be the answer in a way, but she also didn't want it to be like, it's just that like
It's
she,
the
because
truth you
obviously she,
know, but you don't wanna hear.
yeah, you don't want to hear, exactly. A few other notes other than some of the character stuff on the film, like this is the best paced one out of the
Yes.
three, because it just doesn't waste any time getting into the conversations.
What I
It's
love is that it
mm,
feels like you could have stopped the movie at almost any time, and both the characters are like, "No, we're not fucking stopping the movie. Keep
no,
it going. Did
yeah,
you wanna go get coffee? Okay, we'll go get coffee. Oh, we gotta go. Actually, I don't wanna go to the airport. You know what? I can show
yeah,
up late. Oh, well, you
yeah,
know what?
oh yeah. I
Every
love,
single chance that they
I
get to
yeah,
roll further, they do."
I love every moment they're like, "Oh, you know what? Let's get out of this coffee shop. There's a garden, or do you want to go shopping? It's shopping day here in France." So it's like, oh, maybe not. Let's go to the park or whatever." And then like
Just start
they,
pulling bullshit out.
yeah, yeah, just start pulling bullshit out, and then they get to the boat and they're like, "Oh, let's do the boat. Let's do the boat." And he goes, "No, you got your plane." It's like, "Oh, um, I got like 15 more minutes. That's fine." And then
The
even
boat will
when they get
take us
off,
closer.
yeah, the boat would take us closer to the car. And then when they get to the car, and she's like, "Well, I guess it's time." And he goes, "Oh no, no, I could drop you off on my way back. I have to stay. Like I'm arriving at the airport like 3 hours or 2 hours early. I'll
Alright,
just,
bye. Wait, no, I'll
yeah,
walk you
yeah,
up.
yeah. I'll walk. Yeah, I'll walk you up." And
Alright,
yeah,
leave.
yeah,
No, no, we're gonna
yeah.
have tea now. Like,
No,
okay.
no. Yeah, she's like, "You want tea? Let's have some chamomile tea." And yeah, like it's just, it's so funny like how much the both of them kind of like they both stall for time, the end, like just for all of it.
I mean,
Whereas,
that says everything that
yeah,
they need to know, that the
yeah,
fact that they don't wanna separate, that they have this time clock that is over their heads the entire time, and both of them just going, "No, we don't care, okay? We
yeah.
already got punished by time one last time, so we're not going to let that happen this time." Like,
Mhm.
I that is just something that is a beautiful echo of the previous one. Once again, Linklater understands time.
It's a beautiful, pretty much damn near perfect sequel, and
No, I'd say perfect. I just say perfect.
yeah,
I'm
it's
not even
pretty,
gonna say
yeah,
damn near.
yeah, it's amazing, and it's
The scene of them
mhm.
walking up and it just follows them. Like
Oh yeah,
it
these
milks it for every
well,
second.
I yeah, you gotta give a lot of credit to these movies too, because like a lot of like each scene is like just long takes. Like it's
Yeah.
just like someone holding a camera and following them around. There could be easily a slip up at any moment. Somebody could like walk in front of the frame if they're at a public place, and like yeah, and even then they could probably incorporate it because like it's just like it's meant to be set in these public areas. But it's so crazy to think that everything's like scripted and they have everything like nailed down
It still
to a
doesn't
T
feel like it because
because
there's just so much naturalness
it's
to
so
it.
natural. It's so natural. It really is crazy because like again, I could believe it too because like they made three really good movies and
Yeah, yeah.
like or you know fantastic movies that people love and oh
But
it's
Sam,
very
Sam,
yes.
I know you can kind of see the artifice of movie. Like you can look at it and go,
Mhm.
"Oh, well, they probably did this for that
Yeah.
reason. Oh, maybe it was a budget constraint why this happened. Oh, they're
Yeah.
using this shot to I don't know, maybe kind of hide the things in the background. The depth of field is
100%.
blurry so you can't tell that the CG is there."
Yeah.
What I was always impressed with is that anytime my brain started kicking into that moment, it was always during the dialogue where I was like, "Oh my god, they're just not cutting. Oh my god,
Yeah.
is there a hidden cut here?" Like
Yep.
you see someone walk across the screen, you're like, "Well, did he swipe away half the screen and that's what did it?" And it's like, "No, that's not it." And you just keep looking for these moments where the artifice cracks and then it just never does, and you get to that realization of, oh my god, these two people just know each other so well that whenever they're spouting out these lines, nothing about it feels like it's something that they already know what they're going to say. It feels like a genuine conversation that two people are having.
Yeah, they're easily like one of, if not the best, like film couple on like in terms of like I've seen that I could think of because of just how the two of them are very different in many ways, but they also connect in a very unique way to one another because obviously they both have very different ideologies about life and stuff.
Hmm.
And Jesse's obviously, like we said, a lot more cynical than her and
Yes.
doesn't like a lot of more fun stuff and likes to think more logically in
Mhm.
ways.
It's very weird because
Yeah.
Celine seems like a person who she feels like she's the person who absolutely would believe astrology, but then there's other times where she just goes, "No, no, 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 but this is as grounded as we're gonna get." Like whenever she was talking about politics, how global warming is gonna kill us all, like she doesn't seem like a person who's just high in the sky, just like
Mhm.
imagining that everything is gonna be okay. It just sort of seems like she herself is just always running away from these emotions, but she can never fully bring herself to that point to be as cynical as Jesse is.
I'm really happy she's not stereotype character at all. Like she's
A person.
yeah, she's just a person and she's not like you said they even make a joke about astrology in the first film.
Yeah.
After the fortune telling, I just remember that. Yeah, the both of them together, like even though they have different ideas on the world and like how men and women work together, it's they could still get along and they could still you know they love so many things about each other. It's hard to put in the words at moments, just like how
Yes.
they like struggle to find the words.
I mean, at this point,
Yeah,
we should probably just play music and just let the rest of the
yeah,
movie run out that way.
yeah. Oh yeah, that ending again, like when she yeah, it's funny too because like she mentions I don't remember at what point in the film, but she mentions that she like wrote some music and he's like I gotta hear some.
Yes.
And she's like, no, no. And then, like, the end of the film, finally, we get to hear it. And then I don't know what her background is with music, but
She actually did
the
sing that apparently.
yes, I figured that, but the song that's playing at the beginning of the film in the credits, the opening credits, is
No
another
way.
song of hers. Yeah, Amazon Video has that like little thing that tells you what song's playing,
Oh.
and it said like, "Oh, a song by Julie Delpy," and I was like, "What?" I was like, "Oh." So I have no like she must have done some like music stuff outside the film or maybe just for the film, I don't know.
I think probably
Um
just for the film. I opened up her
probably.
Wikipedia and it is just showing me filmography, is not showing me discography or anything. So it might just be
Okay.
that she can hold a tune, and they're like, "Hey, can you sing
Yeah.
for us?"
Yeah, like that song is awesome. That like it's beautiful that she sings. I even love that moment when she includes Jesse's name into it.
Oh my god.
So she did that on purpose.
Once again, probably another echo back to the poem scene in the first
Hmm.
movie where he's just like, "Oh, did you just plug that in?" Like he
Yeah,
is
yeah.
playing around with the fact that he's not sure, but I also believe that he probably isn't sure either. Like he's just like,
Mhm.
"Oh, are you just doing that because I'm here? Oh my god, please, for the love of God, give me a hint that all this time that we spent together is because we feel mutually the same."
Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
it's such a perfect ending, and again, that line of just "Baby, you're gonna miss that plane," and he just says, "I know," and it's just fade to black.
I remember that the black lasted just a little bit longer than it felt like, and I turned to my wife, I'm like, "If they end it right here," and that's when it said directed by Richard Linklater. I was like, "Boy,
Yes. Yes.
boy, they
Oh,
just ended it right at the peak. There's
right at
nothing
the
else that we need to know. We
perfect
know
moment.
everything."
We know
Yes.
everything, and you could put the pieces together. What's gonna happen after that? Yeah. It's
Absolute masterpiece of a film. Masterpiece.
phenomenal.
Like, even if someone didn't like the first one, this second one is like,
Yeah.
okay, okay. To be fair, I don't know how you could not like the first one. Like, you could probably be
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah, that was fine. But like
I
the
love the
second
first
one,
one.
ooh,
Yeah, but like the second film even just takes it further than the first in many ways. Again, that element of time really works because it's really just like it's just cool seeing, especially in the third film. It's just really cool seeing them when they're that old. So
yes,
it's like, oh god, like
time comes
just,
for us all.
yeah, time comes for us all. We're all gonna, yeah. But I don't know if I have anything left here in my notes for Before Sunset because it's just like there's nothing to complain about. It's just like we said, it just gets right into it. It doesn't stop, and it has like one of the best endings of all time.
Correct.
It's a fantastic movie, and if whoever's still listening,
What is
and
wrong with
what
you?
is
Leave,
wrong? What is
leave.
wrong with you?
Go watch these movies.
Even if you don't like the movies, at least give them a shot. You know, these might be Criterion Collection, but they're just don't be afraid by art house because like this is just these are accessible movies if anyone has an open mind.
Look, Loki's over. Don't rent Black
Yeah,
Widow. Watch this.
yeah. Don't spend $30 to watch Black Widow.
Jesus Christ.
Stop giving. Oh.
Just send $30 to Florence Pugh instead, okay? That's better use of your
Yeah.
money.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Go watch. Just go watch Midsummer if you want Florence Pugh.
We know that. Look, I'm so happy that Florence Pugh is in the MCU because that means that she's probably going to get a nice hat out of that because we know that Midsummer wasn't paying any of the bills.
That's true. That's very true. Oh
So
man, I
that's
don't
yeah.
think I have any. Yeah, I don't have anything left to say. I think about Before Sunset. It's just I don't. I get very dangerously close to calling it Before Sunrise. It's
Yes, every
that
single
close.
time.
Yeah, I get very close, and I for a second I have to like sit there and like, did I say sunset or sunrise?
No, no, no. It's for me.
Yeah.
It's like the new Apes trilogy where I'm like, crap, which one happened first?
Oh man, but
So yes, Before
yeah.
Sunset, absolute masterpiece. The
Woo!
monster of filmmaking. It is nothing like you ever seen before.
It's
Now,
fantastic.
time to move on to the next one, Before Midnight. Now,
Midnight.
I feel like I had to mention it since I said I'd bring back my wife up on this one. Once again, I'm
Mhm.
going to jump to the ending again. The apex of emotions in the movie obviously is the hotel room, and
Yep.
my wife was fucking devastated by that
It.
conversation.
Yes.
She was just watching this like, "Oh my god, this isn't a movie anymore. We're just
Yep.
watching two people who love each other argue. I
You're
don't want this."
you're sitting there like the two of them were on the train when they saw that scuffle between
No, not even.
not even worse than
You
that.
are
Worse than that.
you are Jesse
Yeah.
seeing his dad say he was an accident and I
Yeah,
wouldn't be
actually
here for that.
yeah. Yep, yep.
That's who you are
Yeah.
watching these two people
Um
just dig into each other. I've known you for 18 years and I'm
yep.
pulling every trick out of the bag to tear you down because of it.
Yeah, they don't hold back in this one. And I'd mentioned at the very beginning, I this is my least favorite one for a few reasons, but
Go for it. Go for it.
just on overall like general thoughts, really good third movie. I don't love it as much as the first two. It didn't have the same emotional impact on me in ways. The biggest problem this like one of the problems this film has for me is that it takes a while to get into.
Mm,
I like the conversation they have at the beginning for like the first 15 minutes in like the car.
hmm
Like that just like unbroken take again. I love
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Just watching them talk as they're driving, really good stuff. It's
One
wild, like
shot, and you can't really tell where a cut would be, which is
yeah,
also
yeah,
horrifying to think. Like, how did
yeah,
you guys pull this off? How
yep.
did you
Oh
not
man,
screw up?
yeah, I really love that. It just takes a while to get to that bit at the hotel
Mm,
where I wasn't invested in their like in the conversations happening.
mm,
The meat of this like these films for me is just the two of them talking. Like
yeah.
I like that scene at the dinner they have
Mm,
is good. I don't like it as much as any of their conversations from
obviously.
like from the first two films, but what I do love though that they actually do pretty well is set up the events for the fight at the end at the hotel with
Hmm.
it all stems from like him having to say goodbye to his son at the beginning at
Yes.
the airport, and like you could tell him coming out of the airport he's just like trying to like keep that straight face again and like not be
Yes.
pouty because they're on vacation, and it's like, oh, my son who is a spawn of my horrible ex-wife, I have to like let him go back to her and not see him again for several months or whenever he's supposed to see him next. And like that comes out like, and obviously they for a brief he kind of insinuates in the car, hey, would you ever think of moving to Chicago in America? And then even Celine brings it up during the dinner
Hmm.
for that one brief moment. And then everyone there at the table is kind of like, hey, like, let's not argue. We're having a good time. And
Oh,
like,
that sounds like a real
they,
conversation. Please get
yeah,
it out of here.
yep, that sounds like a real conversation that's not fun for anybody in the room. Let's not do this now. I love that they wait and like it just kind of like that festers until the
Ugh.
very end. It's actually really nice too because when they have that fight at the end, it's not just like it's like this rising moment until like someone says the wrong thing. It's that they both keep saying things that like suddenly the fight they have is like, oh, they're not yelling at each other anymore. They're having a normal, rational conversation again. But then somebody says something and it fires them off again, and
Yeah.
it keeps there's just this rippling like effect. Like it keeps going from like very neutral and very relaxed, and then Celine, Jesse just said something that sent Celine over the edge, or vice versa.
There is one thing I do want to
Mm,
mention about the pieces that you were saying that you didn't like. I'm not gonna lie, I actually really like that because I don't have kids. I don't. But I
me
am
neither.
married, and I will admit that there are
Mm,
so many times in a day where my wife and I will be busy. We'll go do an entire day of just chores and being able to get things done, shopping and
mm.
all this, and we'll come home, and even though we've been around each other the entire day, we'll look at each other and be like, we haven't been around each other this entire day. So
Oh
I
yeah, yeah.
actually really do love that
Okay.
this
Yeah.
movie is late relationship shit. Like that
Yeah.
is absolutely what it is. They even in the car whenever they're talking, they're really not with each other together until they're walking on the side of the beach and they're like, "Oh, we can't hear the kids behind us." Like
Yeah.
that is just something that once again, you don't really see this kind of focus on a late term relationship. You're just
Hmm.
usually just like, "Oh, they got married and live happily ever after." You don't need to worry about anything else. You just have to assume that they were happy or maybe they got divorced in the next movie, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that they have that focus where it's like he goes off to the men, she goes off to the women, and even though they are there together, they're not together. And
Hmm.
that is actually what I really love about it because that is just very true. Even when they're at the dinner table and sitting next to each other, they are not together. They
Good
are
point.
the unit. And that's what I love about that entire piece. It's just something that is so truthful. Like even when my wife and I went to the Astros game where I lost my voice, like yeah, we were there, but like
Yeah. Yeah.
we got home and we're like, no, like we went to go get donuts really late, and maybe that's when we're like, oh yeah, we're around each other again. Like it's just
Yeah.
something that I get the complaint, but at the same time, it's just something that it just is like that. Like you
Yeah. That's
just
a
are
yeah.
around each other, but not around each other.
With that insight you just offered me, that definitely makes me appreciate the movie a bit more. I guess the criticism I'm just trying to lay out is that like I'm just not invested
Oh yeah, no, you're not wrong.
immediately. Yeah, like just not invested in what's happening until like they finally get that time together.
But are they
And like,
either?
yeah, that's a good point.
Like, that's the thing, you can
Yeah,
obviously tell that there's a different cadence
yeah.
between them talking to other people than whenever they're talking to each other, because at the end of the day, isn't that everything that the second movie is that no one else can fill that void that the other one fills for them?
Yes, that's a yeah, very, very good point. It's a very small criticism that it just for me that it takes a little bit of time to get into. Still, again, this is a great movie, and
Still the best trilogy out there.
yep, and there's one the problem I have that I've been debating with myself with
Mm, mm,
Jesse's character in
mm,
this
mm,
film.
mm.
That again, this is what kind of makes me not. I don't know if I like if it's a knock against it or if this is just something kind of showing a side of Jesse's character that like we've never seen before, and we realize has he kind of always been this way? Where like when they're having that fight in the hotel,
Mm,
he says to Celine at one point that like when she's confronting him about I think when she's confronting him about like did he sleep with that woman that
mhm.
was with him on his tour book tour or whatever, and he says something along the lines of like at one point that like oh good luck trying to find someone that will pit up with your crazy ass, and I'm like it's like maybe you guys are just very angry at each other and you're just trying to get at each other, but that is a there's something very ugly, and again like this is showing the ugly aspects of what love can be, but like it's a very manipulating line to her to make her feel bad that she's getting angry. It might sound irrational at him for because again like he tries at points to kind of like keep himself, he's like let's dial it back, like he's trying to calm her down and be like all right like
Let's stay rational.
let's stay rational. I can't blame either of them for getting angry at each other because they clearly have the 9 years that we haven't seen. You can tell that a lot of the 9 years, once they had kids and stuff, they got busy. They don't have a lot of time for each other, which is clear because they're like, they didn't even really want to do the hotel because they almost
Yeah,
had a fear that this was going to happen
yeah.
because they were like telling their friends, we don't need the hotel. We'll just get the kids ready and packed for tomorrow when we leave. And it's like, oh, no, no, no. You guys should have some time to yourself. Like, come on. And then, like, it must have been so long at that point that they're like, they're clearly a little afraid to get into maybe some of their more problems that they had at him being away with her to just deal with the kids and then him wanting now to suddenly move to the States to go be involved more in his son's life for Celine to give up her career, which she is really unfair to her because she's worked so hard. And
Mhm.
it's really hard to like pick one side in this film at times, but it's also like, this is just how it is.
The thing is that they are just really going at each other in that argument where the fact that he does cross that line, like that just tends to happen. I mean, not only does that happen just in
Mhm.
regular relationships, the fact that it's also talking about him wanting to see his son, like that's the base point. And here's the thing, I'm pretty sure that it's not controversial to say that whenever you become a parent, I have no idea. Like I said, I have no kids at
Yeah.
this point. Like, I'm pretty sure when you become a parent, just something breaks in your brain that says, this is now your priority number 0. It does not matter
Yep.
what is going on. This is what you're going to have to do.
Kid.
So I wouldn't be shocked if that parent brain is still kicking in. So
Mhm.
he, even if he says that he doesn't see Celine as a barrier to being able to see his kid, I wouldn't be shocked if the lizard brain goes, "Hey, she is though."
Yeah, it's not showing immediately to him because again, he has to remember he selfishly chose the love for her to essentially cause this divide between him and his son 9 years ago.
Mhm.
And like he won't even admit to it, but she says, "Oh, you're trying to say that this is a mistake." And he's like, "No, I'm not trying to say that." He almost is at moments and he's like,
He's basically saying like, if I
"Yeah,
say it's a mistake, it makes it sound like I wouldn't want to redo everything I just did.
exactly." And again, like I said, like I love Celine a lot more in these sequels as well because like they get to explore her more. Like I even love that like Celine really cares about his son as
Yeah,
much as
oh my
like he does.
god. The
He
fact that they
mhm,
stop in the middle of like foreplay and she goes to answer a
yeah.
call from him, it's like, "Oh my god, you are his mom."
Yeah, and I feel like Jesse almost couldn't find the right words to say, but obviously life would have been easier if Henry, I think his son's that's his son's name. Obviously, it'd be a lot easier if they got either the custody or like originally Celine was his mom in an ideal world where they if things worked out the right way the first time. But no, this is real life. They both made some mistakes along their way in life, and now this is their situation and they got to come up with a solution to deal with it. And yeah, I love what you just mentioned, like during that scene when they're getting romantic for the first time in a while, and she goes to answer the phone to make sure he's safe, that he got off, like got to London, and is about to board on to the next plane back home. And then even in the car ride, she mentions like, oh, he told me that he had his first kiss, and it's, oh, like he even goes to her for like, because clearly the kid, they talk about how his mom is like, I guess
Let's just
we
call her a
want to,
bitch. It's just easier.
yeah, just easily, yeah.
Look,
Yeah,
we can try to
yeah,
dance
literally,
around it. Screw it.
yeah,
We'll save
yeah,
time.
yeah, she's fucking nuts. And clearly he does not have that, like,
Connection to her.
yeah, Celine is obviously that motherly connection that he has when he comes to visit, and obviously he has his dad there too. So yeah,
I mean,
it's
even
yeah,
he would want to be over there. It's just the fact that the ex-wife would be like, "No, fuck you. You divorced me. I'm going to use the only thing I have as leverage against you."
yeah. Even the son there at the beginning of the movie at the airport was like, "Dad, I don't want you to come only because it's going to complicate things because mom takes it out on me." And it's like, oh, what the hell? Like,
Yeah, that's rough.
that's rough. It's like, what's going, like, yeah, like it's like, what's going on there? Maybe they should try and put their attention, like, is it, what's this kid's situation like? Because he obviously doesn't see him for a while, and they
I,
don't know.
I probably imagine that it's like just mild passive aggressiveness. Like
It
it's
could,
like,
yeah,
"Oh yeah, oh, you're my kid. You're my kid. Oh, I saw Ethan Hawke. Ugh,
yeah,
why do you have his eyes? Ugh,
yeah, it's,
why do
yeah,
you
like,
have
I
his
mhm.
ears? Like, ugh."
She'll, yeah, she'll look at her own son at times and be like, she's going to be reminded of her ex-husband and take it out, that resentment and hate on him.
Like, she's not gonna beat him or anything, but
Mhm.
she is going to be like she's maybe not gonna put down the plate as nicely, for food. Like, she might
Yeah.
just
Oh yeah.
like there'll be a bit of a clatter, and it's like just probably these micro actions where you're just like, you don't like me right now, but some part of you knows that it's also illogical, so it's not like you can go full on willing to punish me for something that I didn't do.
Yeah, pretty much. I do love how this film just incorporates the fact they have children now, and it's like a added plot point responsibility for them. Where, and then again, like, all these problems with their kids causes them to fight because they hadn't had any time to bring up any of the serious issues they've had over the past
Mhm.
9 or so years.
Which is a real thing. Like what ends
It's
up
a,
happening is
yeah,
that raising a kid is just so stressful that at that point you stop being a couple and you become parents.
yeah, you just become parents and you forget that the two of you, it's like, oh yeah, we have ourselves to fix. Because obviously in real life there's people that as soon as their kids depart to college, you hear about divorces and stuff, because, oh yeah, like, these people kind of just stuck around together until their kids all left them and left each other, because it's a real thing. And the film kind of gets into that too, at that dinner table scene with everybody there, about like couples and stuff, long lasting relationships.
I mean, the other scarier part is when people become parents, the kid leaves and they don't know who they are at that point. Like they're
That,
just
yeah.
been a parent for so long that they lose their identity. And that's what Celine's running into in that conversation. Like she feels like she is so much of a mom that by the time that she has to focus on being a wife at some point, she just realizes like, no, 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 I have my career. Like that is who I can be. But I
Hmm.
don't want to have to sacrifice who I am career wise because I need to focus on being a mom as well. Like she has all of that stress on her about who she wants to be, which is already something she struggled with for the last two movies. And this is finally the moment
Hmm.
where she feels like she can finally become someone that she'll be happy with. But the fact that she is also a mom is in the way of telling her, no, you don't get to be who you want to be because you need to be a mom above all else. It's one of those things that I'm pretty sure, like, if you talk to a mom, none of them would ever regret their one of their kids. And if they did, like, that's
Yep.
fucking insane. We're not going to talk about
Yeah.
the fringe cases, but like
Yeah.
most moms, even if like they had an accident or something, most of the time they can look at their kid and they'll never say they regret them, but there are things that they wish they can change. And Celine is in that position where if she had it, I'm pretty sure that she would love to be able to have a career, not have to worry about her kids. But at the end of the day, she knows she wouldn't be able to do it because she knows she has that love for her kids.
Yeah, do love that she even brings up, she's like, I'm not becoming a submissive housewife and all that, because like she's worked so hard for where she's at. I do love too when she, like, they get into a scuffle, the whole hotel scene. They're like, she talks about, even though she has this career and stuff, all these work responsibilities and like 10,000 emails to respond to, she's like, I'm still cooking the meals at home and doing all this stuff. Yeah, like, sure, you go and pick up the kids every now and again, but yeah, she complains about like, you're not it doesn't seem like you're putting in as much as an effort as she is when she has all these other responsibilities. So yeah, like it's definitely diving into that thing of
Actual
women,
relationship
like,
shit where
yeah,
women really do everything.
they really do everything. Yeah, they do. Yeah. It's brutal and honest, and this film does not hold back on any of that. One of the other things I love they tackle in this film with Celine as well, other than her being a mom and how that's affected her, is that it's actually Jesse's book career and how it affected her. The fact that she's a character in two of his books, and the whole world has read their story, their romantic nights and stuff of
Yeah, the
like,
moment where they ask for a signature.
yeah, yeah, it's clear that it has had some psychological effect on her, because even in the fight after that scene, when someone asks for a signature, she's like, can't remember what she says first, but she says, "But you're don't you ever put me in one of your fucking books again."
Yes.
And it's, you could tell, like, it's just, she does not, that thing did something to her. There's clearly something there that she hates. I'm not sure exactly what, but there's some sort of
Ooh, that's
resentment
where we
that
can dig.
she,
That's where we can
yeah,
dig. I'm gonna
yeah.
say I don't
Mhm.
like that she feels like the book character of her is too idealized.
I do remember she has that line in, I don't know if it's the, I think it's, yeah, it's in Sunset, where she says, it's kind of disturbing reading the version of herself through his eyes in the book. And I think that's what probably bothers her, is seeing herself through someone else's lens.
Yeah, and I think that
Hmm.
if we're going off of that, obviously the fact that Jesse still tries throughout all this means that obviously he loves her. So at that
Hmm.
point, he idealizes her. She probably just has low self esteem is like the wrong term, but just
Yeah.
go with me here. She probably doesn't exactly have that much of a high opinion of herself where she feels like she could always be doing more. Like she feels like she's never putting in the right amount of effort into everything that she can and she's stretching herself thin. So I wouldn't be shocked if whenever she reads about who she is in those books, she's like, but that's not me. Like that's who I want to
Yeah,
be, but
she's,
there's
yeah.
absolutely nothing I can do to get me there.
Yeah, she probably has resentment about that, because it's like, oh, it's, that's not me, because I didn't, that's someone writing about me, and that's also someone pitting me in their story, kind of sharing it with the world. What, like,
That
when it's
too.
something, when
Yeah,
it's something, it's, yeah, it's something very private, that and vulnerable. Like, it's very vulnerable moments between them that she obviously is like, doesn't want to, she doesn't want the whole world to like view as entertainment, I guess.
I mean, I also wouldn't be shocked if she also doesn't like the idea that if they know who she is and who she's married to, I'm pretty sure she also doesn't like the idea that everyone's going to have this perception of her, like, oh man, you're perfect, you can do everything, and she's just
Yeah,
like, I am so frazzled by every single responsibility that I have that I don't even want to be associated with the look of someone who looks like they have it all together.
because like, yeah, like, he really romanticizes their love life in those two books he wrote, and I
Mhm.
think that bothers her to some extent.
Yeah, because
And
she's like, it
oh
probably
yeah,
makes it feel like he's tone deaf. Like, how do you
yeah,
think that all of this has just been completely fine? Which makes that
y-
argument probably blow up even more because it feels
yeah,
like she's going from that point of time of you don't recognize what is going on. You don't recognize what all the problems are. And the fact that you're putting these in your book and you don't recognize the problems makes me think that you aren't paying attention.
because yeah, like, when the girl asks for the signature, she asks for hers too,
Mhm.
and I think that's what set her off, because
No, it's a confrontation of
yeah,
recognizing
yeah,
that you are in these books, and
yeah, yeah,
this
yeah,
person you're talking to probably has an idea of who you are.
you must be the wife, this is you in the story. It's like,
Don't pretend to know me,
yeah,
please.
yeah, yeah, it's like, no, I'm not.
Just sign it. Like, oh my
Yeah.
god, you fucking suck. I don't want to do this.
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's the whole film's leading up to that whole hotel fight, and the payoff is worth it, because I like how they resolve it a little. It doesn't seem like they're gonna, oh, everything's fine by the end of it, but like, everything, they're finally just calming down and kind of enjoying the rest of their night. Maybe, I'd like to hope maybe they solve their issues when they get back from their vacation in Greece, because like, when he approaches her there at the end at the outdoor like dinner or diner place or restaurant, he's just like, hey, I'm a time traveler. Like, he comes up with this whole story with the napkin there, and like, tries to tell her, like, when we're at 80 years old or whatever, you still got a great ass and all this. She's like not buying into it at first, but then like, finally he says, like, this is real love, and we're just gonna have to, can't remember the exact quote, but they're just trying their best, essentially.
Yes.
And I hope for their sake as characters, maybe they need couples counseling after they get back and like have to really lay into each other some more there to before they can really fix everything. And because it's clear Jesse obviously still loves her, like,
Mhm.
and Celine, yeah, like that moment when Celine says, "I don't think I love you anymore," and just leaves.
Oh.
Uh, it's harsh. So it's like you've been watching 3 films that take place over the course of like 18 years, and you just that is like the worst.
It's something
It's
that every time that I think about, I'm just thinking she really didn't have anything else to pull. Like at this point, it is a knockout drag out fight where it's like I want to hurt this person that has
mhm,
been with me for the all these amount of years. And that moment is something where she just completely gives up pretense about trying to play fair or anything. This is the moment where she's like, I don't care about the topic anymore. I just want to hurt you. I don't
mhm,
think I love you anymore. Like
yeah,
that's the moment where it gets real. Like it was already real, but that's when it's like capital every single letter real.
mhm,
And you were talking about how at the ending it feels more like, it's a little bit uneasy about the two of them. The fact that Jesse knows that he can just get there and kind of kick off with a joke and then lead into how he actually feels, that gave me so much hope because you kind of do have those, not even conversations, you have those arguments with a loved one where it
mhm,
feels like this is dire. Like this is one of those moments that is probably going to dictate the relationship from then on. The fact that Jesse still has the confidence to know that he can still lead in with a joke lets me know that they were never in danger. Like it's one of those
yeah,
things that even with how nasty that fight is, the fact that the two of them are still willing to play along with the joke at the end makes me feel like these two people at a base level just know how they are with each other, that they know that even with all the nasty shit that they just pulled, they still care about each other at the end of the day. And
yeah,
that's the kind of thing that always has me happy with that ending because the two of them know each other so well that even when they're hurting each other, they know how they communicate. So even they can still read through the lines that sometimes you just hurt the people you love. And it's unavoidable because the closer bonds you have to people, the more likely you just are to hurt them. And whenever you're married, that is pretty much one of the closest bonds that you can get to someone. Not even
yeah,
your own kids. Like your kids are living their own lives that, for the most part, you have no idea what's going on in their lives to a day to day basis, while your spouse is someone that, for the most part, you do. So that
yeah,
entire ending with them just knowing that even though with the amount of buttons that they push that they still love each other at a base level is honestly one of the most uplifting endings where it just feels like, yeah, that shit got really bad, but at the end of the day, these two people still love each other so much that it's going to take something way worse than an argument
yeah.
to break them up.
Yeah, it's gonna take them more than that, like you said, because again, it's just one bad night, which hopefully the rest of their lives from there, they try and just
No, there's gonna be another one
yeah.
though. There always is another one. It's
Yeah,
that
there's always
a relationship is always going to be tested over and over and over again. This
mhm,
probably isn't even the first fight. This is probably one of the worst ones they've had, but it's definitely not the worst one. Like
yeah,
I don't think that because it just feels like the fact that he bounced back almost immediately feels like no, like I've handled this before. I know exactly how we bounce back and forth between each other. Like there's just so much, at least in the subtext of of a relationship of 18, well, not 18 years, 9 years, but you understand. The fact
yeah.
that they have this ability to tell how they are with each other, it just lets me know that this is just it. Like the nothing is probably ever gonna break them.
Yeah, it makes me hopeful too that no matter what happens after the credits have rolled, they're gonna work things out. Maybe they won't move to Chicago, but they'll find they'll compromise somewhere. Um,
Exactly. Like they'll
even
at least
yeah.
put in the effort to make sure that they're not going to say we did nothing.
Yeah, 100%. And on a side note, something that happens earlier in the film, I wanted to get your
Oh yeah,
opinion
no, like
on.
I said, we always end up
Yeah,
jumping to we did this
yeah,
twice now where we
yeah,
jump to the end
yeah,
because how can we
yeah.
not?
Yeah, it's just how can you not? Because like these movies have like really great endings. There's a moment at the early point in the film when Jesse and the one gentleman there that he's talking with about his books,
Mm,
they look at the younger girl that the older guy's grandson, like his
mm.
girlfriend's over, and they check her out.
Yeah.
There's a funny story behind that moment where on the set, I guess, of the movie,
Mm.
a cameraman approached Ethan Hawke and asked him like, "That's not something like Jesse would do. He wouldn't look at another woman." And it's like, it's a very natural thing to randomly check out somebody on for anybody. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's above that kind of like attitude or anything. And even
Correct.
I could have sworn like in the first film, even like both of them were caught staring at somebody
Yeah.
else at one point just because they caught their eye and attention, and it's just something that happens, and like it's not like unnatural. Like Jesse's again, like there's no
He
I
didn't
wish it
stare for like hours. Like it was just kind of a
yeah, he wasn't
glimpse, and then you kind of put
yeah,
your eyes down.
he wasn't flirting with her. He wasn't like yeah, he wasn't making any advancements at her. He just like the two of them glanced at her for like a couple seconds, and then they both looked at each other and had a laugh, and that was it.
Yeah, no, no. I mean,
um
pretty much that
yeah.
scene in the movie feels like the camera itself has to go on for a little bit longer. So you
Mm,
know that there's a point made, but not going on too long where it feels like the characters themselves are staring. Like it feels like it goes long enough just to let the audience know, hey, they were looking here, but not too long.
yeah, exactly. It's just a little moment I appreciate because oh yeah, like these, and I'm sure Celine probably saw some like gorgeous man on the streets of Paris or something, or at one point and was like, "God damn!"
Wow,
like
that's a specimen. Now, if only he
that.
was the one
Yeah,
that I met on the train.
yeah, exactly. Like, I think it's a totally normal thing for couples to do. They like when you see like a hot actor or actress in a movie, like a husband or wife is going to be like, "Wow," just because it's just feels that's the nice thing about these movies. Like they don't leave stones unturned.
I
Really.
mean, I'm just always impressed that all of this feels super grounded. There was never a moment where I was like,
Mhm.
ah, well, that didn't feel right. Like, considering even all of the things in these movies, nothing could be said as unnatural. All
Yeah.
of this feels like it is just ripped from reality. Like, I'm pretty sure that if you can just figure out a way to ghostly stalk people, this would be that. Like, this is
Yeah.
just fly on the wall following these two people at points in their lives.
Yeah. I love that a film could emulate that feeling, whether it's these movies or say a director I really love named Michael Haneke. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the way they do in his country. Um,
Mm.
but his films make you feel like you're stuck there and you got to witness the horrible shit that happens in his movies. Very different kind of approach though to what you're explaining because like these films because like the hotel scene feels like you're just like you're watching mom and dad fight.
Which, my God, that's the
Yeah,
moment where you're just like,
yeah.
please eject, eject. I
It's
don't want
very
to see
uncomfortable.
mom and dad yell at each
Yeah.
other.
Yep.
Ah, you love each other. Please stop.
What do you think of the idea? Because like they've shot it down now. It's not happening, I'm pretty sure, but you never know what could
No,
happen.
no,
You don't want a
no,
fourth film?
no, no, no. Okay.
No.
We have the idealistic 20s. They have
Yes.
obviously just this immediate spark, all the possibilities in the world in before sunrise. Sunrise.
Yes.
Okay. You see, even I'm doing it now.
Yep.
So then you have the sobering 30s when you just realize that the idealistic thing that you were trying to go for isn't going to happen. The 30s is when you just kind of have to tamper down and go, this is pretty much my life, and I need to make sure that I have everything ready for the 40s. And once you get to
Yep.
the 40s, things just really stop changing. So I don't know what you can do anymore that
Yeah.
would give us more insight to the characters because what are they going to go to the 50s, 60s? Like at that point, oh, we're going to have to deal with our daughters becoming sexually active and who they might be dating. Like, I don't want to see a fucking Taken situation where like one of the
Yeah.
twins gets kidnapped or something
Yeah.
and Ethan
Yeah.
Hawke has to pick up a shotgun. Like, I don't want to
Yeah.
see any of that. The whole
Yeah.
idea is like of these three movies is what can you decipher from a relationship? And at this point, the fact that they're married, they've already had kids, they've been married for a couple of years. I don't know what other develop you can have to show more shades of a relationship through these characters.
Yeah, that's pretty well said. Because I've gone back and forth of thinking about it. What would a fourth film look like? And I think I saw something at one point that Ethan Hawke said that they kind of had an idea of like waiting even longer until they're like really older. And I'm like,
Oh, yeah, okay, no, no, no,
maybe.
I'm in for that one, actually.
Yeah,
Like, the
yeah,
idea of going back to the point where you are just a couple, you are no longer parents, you are grandparents more than anything else, and
yeah,
you kinda have to figure out how to be alone with each other again. That actually sounds like something I can
yeah.
get behind.
That could really work. I'm not against the idea, but like if that's it, that's fine. It ended on a really nice note. I'm not going to complain. I'm not yearning for another one. You know, there's always more stuff to discover out there. So
So, 18 years instead of 9 years, please.
do that even because yeah, I think Julie Delpy said that she was like, yeah, I'm retiring from acting soon, and I think they probably talked about it several times, and it just sounds like they don't really have a good enough excuse to do it or something.
I mean, to be fair, I'm pretty sure if
Yeah,
Linklater called her was like, "Hey, uh, before after evening, you in?"
yeah. After, yeah, the after trilogy in their older years.
Oh wait, no, no, hold on. I just realized that's after. Okay, no, no, no. Then you can use one of the titles again.
Yeah.
Before. Fuck. Oh my god, my brain is hurting now. No, no, after midnight. There we go. There we go.
After midnight,
Yeah, that feels like it has a lot of finality to it. After midnight, boom, done.
we get one set during their like when they're like 60 or something, and it's like before supper. I don't know.
Fucking before bedtime.
Man, before bedtime.
There we go.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah, at that point,
Uh,
you just know that they're old. That's perfect.
yeah, they just know they're old. Oh man.
You see,
Yeah.
now that's what I could get into. I don't think that there's any other idea I think I'd want because I kind of don't want to see them be parents to teens. Like, that's
Me
kind of
neither.
what this one is, too,
We got
anyways.
Boyhood. We got Boyhood as well, which kind of had. It's so weird to think that like Boyhood basically started shooting in between these before films. Isn't that like crazy? And then like following year after Before Midnight, they're like, "Here's Boyhood." It's like, holy shit.
Boyhood is just so weird to think about timeline wise when you just think
Yeah.
about all the shit in the mid 2000s that they ran through and just
Mhm.
integrated. Like, ah.
I think of this idea of like of this trilogy of like taking using time like that
Mm.
to its advantage. Is there any other there almost feels like you could use this same kind of not like the same kind of film structure or anything like that, but the same concept and tell like a much grander story, I feel.
So the
Like you can
idea of taking a
yeah.
different story and going, okay, we're gonna tell it like this, and then we're gonna
Yeah.
wait for a little bit and come back and revisit it.
Yeah, like you can almost do that because like we've seen it done with other films, kind of. Like we got like sequel to Train Spotting. I don't know if you ever saw Train Spotting or not by Danny Boyle.
So I
Um,
haven't seen it, but I do know that that one was a really delayed one. Did they really integrate the fact that time had passed on that one?
yeah, so the
Oh,
second film's a lot more about nostalgia and like second film is not as good as the first one,
mm.
but like it's a surprisingly pretty solid sequel for what that was because like that came out around the time where like oh let's make a sequel to something that came out like 20 years ago or whatever, but at least Danny Boyle and everybody came back to make it.
Mm.
I like the idea of telling some grand epic story or something over the course of that amount of time.
But then the
um
question is, what could it be? Because for me,
yeah,
what becomes
yeah,
special about the Before trilogy is that it's not
it is,
only
yeah.
an investigation about two characters, it also feels an investigation of relationships. Like, you would
Mhm.
need something like a big topic like that to really hang on it to, oh, I no, hold on, I just got an idea. What if you took Place Beyond the Pines and made it into a trilogy where you had time between?
That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, like I like that idea. I really love the idea of like having this like movie that like all one movie. It's like maybe like a almost 3 hour long epic where like the first half of the film takes place, you know, they do it now and then like they come back to shoot the second half of it like so many
Mm.
years later because like the second half of the story takes place so many years later, but like that would really take somebody with like a lot of ambition and like patience to do it.
And
And
cachet to actually be able to convince
okay, yeah.
people to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that to fun. Like again, like the before movies and Boyhood seemed like reasonable to ask for like, hey, can we have a few $1 million for something that's going to take several years to make? Because I know these films weren't like crazy big at the box office, but
Mhm.
my knowledge, there's not like a very high risk to them
Okay.
because, especially like I don't think Boyhood probably was like it was definitely a risk for whoever got involved, but because that obviously could have fell flat on its face completely, but it came out pretty all right. And I love that Linklater thinks outside,
Oh,
just
absolutely.
literally outside the box with this stuff. And like, even if it's not perfect, these things exist. Like, he did two rotoscoped animated films, Waking Life and Scanner Darkly, which are not for everybody, but I really enjoyed them both, and they used the animation to its advantage for the story it's telling in both films.
I just feel like if they can grab a big concept and tie it to this structure, I will be very happy. And because
Mhm.
of now thinking about Place of Beyond the Pines, I would not mind this structure put on the topic sins of a father. Like, I like the idea of being able to follow three generations, and I don't know how you figure out the time for that. Maybe start off with a kid, have the grandparent be involved. I don't know, but the idea of sins of a father feels like it would fit perfectly with, hey, let's skip a couple of years and see what seeds we dropped bloom into.
Yeah, that could be really cool. It's just a cool idea. I just wonder what else, because like I know there was something I read like a year or like it was a like well over a year ago. I know Linklater talked about doing something again, like another one of these, but not like a before movie, but like
Another time
the
centered movie.
yeah, like film. Oh, I wish I still remember what it was, but it sounded like it was like one movie, but like over the course of 20 years or some shit like
Yes,
that. It was like it
merrily
was.
we roll along.
Is that what it's called? Or
Yes, correct. I have it
okay.
up here. This is the one that he said that he is filming over the course of 20 years, I think.
Holy shit. He's getting pretty like he's getting up there in age, so
Oh,
like I
yeah.
hope if this is like his last big hurrah, then so be it.
Yes, I agree.
He's really cool. I would recommend a lot of his other films. I haven't seen like I swear I've seen his Bad News Bears movie like years ago, but I don't really
Same.
remember.
Correct.
I when I heard he did that Where'd You Go Bernadette or whatever that one's called,
Yeah.
I was like, that's Linklater? I was like,
Yes, I
wait,
agree. I
what?
just realized that now.
There's definitely directors like that where like they'll just again like I feel like he did School of Rock probably to get the next project going. Like a lot of
Had the
directors,
resume.
yeah, have the resume so that like their next project could happen. Like a lot of directors have been doing that nowadays, it seems. And
One for
like
you, one for me.
yeah, one for you, one for me, as Taika Waititi does with Marvel and his stuff.
Hmm.
But it's just not a bad system to work off of, especially if you want to creatively make more stuff. Swinging it back to just before midnight quickly, because
Hmm.
I don't think I have anything left to say on it.
Yeah,
But
no, I agree.
um,
Wrap it up because I'm probably about to wrap it up too.
that's fair. I was like, yeah, I don't have anything left to say about Before Midnight. It's a this whole trilogy is great. They're all great movies. If you listen to this whole thing without watching the movies, come on.
What is why?
It
Why
takes
would you be
one.
here?
It would literally take up one afternoon or evening of your life to watch all three back to back. It's
Just please watch
no,
these movies. Figure it out,
yeah,
okay?
yeah.
I
They're
don't
so
care how
good.
you do it. I really don't. I'm not going to judge you. Just watch better movies.
Just watch movies.
That too. Well, I'm not going to go that
Yeah,
far. We were shitting on Black
yeah.
Widow earlier.
That's true. That's true.
Watch good
Oh,
movies.
watch good movies.
All right, that's good enough spot for me to end card.
Perfect.
Hey, look at you. You got to the end of the episode. From episode 0 to the day that I finally get lazy and cancel the show, a big thank you to Joey Rawlings for providing the perfect name for the show. Be sure to always give him thanks, either out loud as you're listening to this, or you can just send him a thank you tweet at boogeyman117 _. That's boogeyman117, IE instead of Y, double O. Be sure that it's an underscore, not a dash, 117.